All right. Good evening. I know that we're late. We were supposed to be on here at 9:45 this evening, but we know we got a lot of stuff that's been breaking or whatever. I came to y'all guys last night. So for anybody that's checking in on this evening, sorry about that. You know we live right now. But as far as that, with that being said, I want to just thank you guys for tuning in, following up with us. I want to thank the people that we have that's on Twitter, and if you are joining us live on YouTube, please hit that like button and the subscribe button so that way, and also hit that bell icon so that way, if you want to see us more, just hit those things so that way we can go ahead on and get ready to get started off on talking. Uh, don't need too much of an introduction. I'm Boss, backed up by yours truly.
Yes,
What's
sir. I'm the chosen one.
All right, thank you. All right, so just beginning off, let's go ahead on and start right off at the top. We know we got it looks like that OKC is about to get ready to win the NBA championship. So we want to give a big shout out to Mr. Shaw for getting that opportunity for him to win the NBA championship.
Big shout out to SGA, man. Boy, the
Yeah,
real deal, man.
it's new.
The real deal.
It's so smart that
It's
Indiana
well deserved.
Pacers could not pull it off. Tyrese Halliburton goes down with an Achilles injury at the beginning of the game. How did
At
that
the
happen?
beginning of it.
The
Oh,
beginning
my Lord.
game. I mean, he went down with an Achilles injury. I got a parlay
Oh,
going
he
right
was cooking.
now. Let
Hey,
me
that
show.
boy was cooking now. He was cooking.
I got a parlay going right now. Let me show you this parlay. When you look at this, you're gonna be like, "Oh my god, everything over with now." So if you look, I'm gonna show you one parlay that I got. Halliburton. He had 9 points. I had him to get 10. He finished the game with 9 points. He messed my whole ticket up. I would have hit for $305 if he would have just hit that 1 point before he got injured. But we want to wish him a
That
recovery.
boy, hey, that boy was cooking good. Boy.
Yeah, that's the second. Hey, it's the second time that we don't see. We've seen somebody go down with an Achilles injury in the NBA. So the question is, what is the league going to do as far as protecting the ankles more? I know that they got the thing where you can't enter into a shooter's jumping air lift off area
Hmm.
once they get ready to go to take the jump shots or whatever. They got to make sure they got space to land. But for some reason,
Correct.
I guess he landed awkwardly and he came down. Same exact situation from your guy from out of Boston. What's his name? Uh,
Jaylen Brown.
yeah, Tatum. Tatum came down with the injury.
Oh,
Same
yeah,
exact
Tatum.
situation. Same exact situation. But when you think about it, it's just like, damn. So that's two in this playoffs. So NBA, you got to come up with something, man, because got to make sure we can be able to protect our athletes, but also the athletes they do a lot of flopping too in basketball now. So you know how that's don't change. How that is.
I, I, I think it's
And
those low top shoes, man. When Kevin Durant start bringing those low top shoes, remember our basketball teams used to come. They bring those low top shoes. We used to tell them, man, y'all ain't got no ankle support.
yeah, hey, we used to say it all the time because we
Oh,
used to coming up with these low top shoes and then thinking that, oh, I could just go ahead on and I could just go ahead on and hoop in these low tops. I'm like, come on, man, at least get
oh
you
my
some water
God.
tops and try
You
to.
need ankle support.
You
You
got to
need
have
ankle support.
that's number one. That's number one. But big shout out to Shy, the Canadian. It's a Canadian that has won the NBA championship, first championship for that city, Oklahoma City. I know that y'all are going to enjoy that. And then hopefully next year Miami can be able to do something. Miami probably can
Shout
do
out to SGA, man. He bringing back the mid range game. All young
something.
basketball players look at SGA. He's bringing back the mid range game.
Yes, sir. Now, so with that being said, we already know what our number one topic is, as you've seen from the introduction. As you all have been waiting on us to come on, we know that we coming on late this evening, so we're gonna probably just try. We're gonna try to run through some of the news stories and stuff of what we've of what's going on in our world today. We already know that the one thing that has actually taken place up to this point is the missile crisis. We had a missile crisis that took place inside of Iran over the past couple of hours. It's been almost close to 24 hours. I guess that the name of the operation was Operation Midnight Hammer. Midnight Hammer. You mean to tell me you could come up with a better operation
Oh
than
my
Midnight Hammer? Hey, I want y'all to tune in. Hey, if you joining us live, just try to jump on and
Oh my God.
discuss this a
I
little bit.
cannot make this
Midnight
up.
Hammer. Come on, you break it up like
Oh my
what
God.
are you thinking about? What with the title or the military? Midnight Hammer. The only thing I know that's midnight hammering, I'm a hush. It's a family show. So we're gonna keep it that way. Back to what I was just saying. So Operation Midnight Hammer. So we know as of last night we were discussing, we were talking about what was taking place in in Iran, and the one thing that we know is that the bunker busters bombs were deployed by six, not one, not two, but six B-2 bombers. If you know what a B-2 bomber is, you know exactly how much it costs for one flight. One flight is almost close to like 350,000, if I'm not mistaken. And that's just if you're flying from here. It has one tank. It has a full tank capacity where it can fly for 16 hours. So it could have flew all the way there. So when they got ready to take off, they took off six bombers at one time. So when they took off with the six, three went in the opposite direction, and then the other three went towards Guam. So they were trying to keep everybody off the trail of exactly where those bombers were going to. But with the from sources and stuff from what we've been hearing, is that the operation was a big dud. It really wasn't a success. Um, the
Well,
Iranians moved.
I thought he
Excuse
said it
me.
was I thought he said it was a huge success.
Yeah, he said it was a huge. It says it was a huge failure because we dropped 35,000 pound bombs. Bust. Oh,
Yeah,
the B word. Bunker busters. They dropped
huge success.
35,000 pounds. Now you just imagine how much did that cost the American public.
Oh
Now
my God.
Trump spoke all
Mm.
this stuff about America first. Okay, if this is America first, what part of this policy has anything to do with American first when it looks like that we're about to get ready to get drugged back into a whole nother war? We had the same situation back in 2004 when President Bush, he said Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. They went in. There was no weapons of mass destructions that was there from the
Mm.
what's his name Saddam Hussein regime in Iraq. And then we spent over 20 something years, 25, 20, almost 20, yeah, it was 25, almost 25 years where we did nation building. Come on now, I don't think the American public got enough a stomach to be able to do another 25-year nation building. And now they're talking about regime change. So now we got Russia. Let me bring this up.
Mm.
Now we got Russia that is actually talking about uh let me get that up. We actually got Russia is actually talking about. Let me get this switched. Sorry about that, guys. But now we actually got Russia. They're out. They're talking about that they want to get involved with this war. So now it's almost like it's getting ready to open up a new front. So from some sources and stuff, this morning they said that there were some flights that were leaving inbound going to Russia, going to meet with President Putin. So we're gonna sit now. We're gonna listen to is it? I think his no, his name is not Sergey Lavrov. I think this is Sergey Lavrov. I think he's the foreign minister for Russia. Let's listen in. I'm gonna give credits to Jason A for putting together these news stories. So what we'll do is about 10 minutes. So we're gonna watch it and then we'll go back and forth and we'll just elaborate and we'll discuss that topic on what is Russia ominous warning to the world. Let's find out.
What they call the dirty work.
который выполняет Израиль.
That's what the most cynical people say. There will no longer be world order, only complete chaos. As the Russian president said today, World War III could be just around the corner. West's biases. It's no secret that they're trying to use Ukraine against Russia. They demonize Russia. Even the word demonis doesn't really convey how vicious their rhetoric and actions are. The female part of the European Commission is especially standing out. It's sad. As the president said during his address at the SPIEF 2025 forum and in other speeches, they are our neighbors, and we are not going to isolate ourselves from them. But they must change their approach, and then we shall see what they have to offer.
It is an outrageous, grave, and unprecedented violation of the fundamental principles of the Charter of the United Nations and international law. The warmongering and lawless administration in Washington is solely and fully responsible for the dangerous consequences and far-reaching implications of its act of aggression.
In the region, there are two stretches of water to worry about, both strategically vital. The Houthis could threaten shipping in the Red Sea, while Iran could directly target vessels in the Persian Gulf, as they've done before, harassing.
Okay, now you see this map, right? Now they're talking about attacking our assets that are in the region. So this is where they're talking about that this may turn into a larger war. So as of right now, everybody is kind of calm to see exactly what's going to take place. But from what some sources are saying, that the Iranians are gearing up to get ready to strike at American bases that are in the region. We have over 40, I think it's almost close to over 40,000, close to 50,000 troops that's right there in the area right now. And the question is, how are we going to protect our boys, that's our guys, our men and women, service women that are there right now in that area, which we already know they train for this every day. But the question is, they're talking about cutting off the Strait of Hormuz. And the Strait of Hormuz, I'm going to show you this real quick. Let me get on the map. This is the Strait of Hormuz. You can see my mouse there?
Yeah.
Okay, this is the Strait of Hormuz. This is a shipping area where a lot of oil that comes from out of Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, in those areas. A lot of oil goes through this strait, this little small strait that's listed right here. Now they're talking about shutting down that waterway, so it's going to cut off the international community. So the question is, what we need to start paying attention to on tomorrow is to see where the markets are going to be when it comes down to OPEC. OPEC is one of the largest oil producers in the world. We want to see what these oil companies, how the prices are going to become more inflated because a lot of the oil that's not going to be coming out of the region tomorrow. So that's going to be the number one question. If the markets are going to tell the story. We're gonna, and I'm going to be watching a couple of companies tomorrow on the stock exchange, such as Halliburton, like the arms dealers, those type of things that are publicly traded on the stock market. So those are some things that people need to try to start paying attention to and seeing exactly where the money is starting to move to. So you want to elaborate? If you got anything you want to say, we can keep on playing it so we can finish up.
No, let's keep on going.
With smaller
We good.
boats, firing rockets at them and seizing them. Now, if the Gulf goes up in flames, expect a big hit to the global economy and the price of oil too. The Iranians have threatened to shut off the Strait of Hormuz, this choke point through which a third of the world's seaborne oil passes. All this would send shockwaves through the world's financial markets. The US has massively increased its presence to retaliate to any retaliation, with no less than 3 aircraft carrier battle groups in the region. As things stand, this is almost certain to escalate, but could it also widen and suck other nations into the conflict? Russia and Iran have a strategic partnership agreement, but it doesn't require Moscow to come to Iran's support. Iran is also...
Now, those three, we already know that these three nations are BRIC nations. If you don't know anything about the BRIC nations, we're going to go into that. We're going to go into full detail about who are the BRICS. So just listen to what this newscaster is, what this reporter is reporting on about bringing in and making it become a wider war. So just try to pay attention to it. We got to pick up on the nuggets that they're going to be laying out there over the next couple of weeks. So that way you are well informed. So that way you can ask your congressmen and people that are from certain areas, your local officials and stuff. You can ask them these questions about how we're going to attack this. All right, let me get back to it.
China's closest ally in the Middle East, but Beijing is also likely to sit this one out, it's thought, and watch from the sidelines.
Now, Real, this is the one thing that you got to pay attention to. When you see Xi Jinping sitting out, trust and believe he's not sitting out for no reason. The only reason why is because China wants to position themselves as the world's new stable.
They want to be number one.
Be number one. So they're going to do everything. They're going to take the diplomacy way, and that way the countries inside of the world can say, "Dang, they're coming in with a steady hand." So, well, maybe we need to go over here to this world power or whatever because they're just as their economy is just as large as the United States. So just listen to this.
The priority for Iran's leadership is to survive, to fight another day, and redouble efforts eventually to build the bomb. If Israel can't change the regime in Iran, which isn't easy, it'll have to manage the Iranian threat and cut it down to size from time to time. That could mean years more military action and could be hugely costly for both Israel and its American backers. So Iran is in a very tight spot, but the future could be challenging for both Israel and America too.
So I think the reason why this is the beginning, not the end of conflict, is because when evidence emerges that Iran is rebuilding its nuclear weapons program, as I believe is likely to happen, are we, the United States, prepared to bomb it again? And if it starts to reconstitute again, are we prepared to bomb it again after that?
Exactly, and how long of a prolonged conflict could this mean that the United States just got itself involved in?
Now, Russia, of course, is signatory to the NPT. On paper, at least, that means that it cannot help Iran develop nuclear weapons or develop its nuclear program. I say that because we are seeing Iran, the Iranian foreign minister, going to Moscow tomorrow to meet with Vladimir Putin. And I just wonder if that's going to be a topic of discussion.
Well, absolutely, it would be a topic of discussion. But I think the topic is not that Iran would ask Russia for help building a nuclear weapon. That's beyond the pale. Russia, I see no reason that Russia would do that. What Iran would be asking for is diplomatic assistance to block any moves.
Okay, now you see what this says right here on the screen. Let me it says Israel and Pakistan, India, and North Korea are the 4 nuclear weapon states that are not part of the NPT. That's the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty. So meaning that those countries are the 4 countries that are not part of that treaty. So therefore, if they're enriching and they're building bombs, they can't. It's almost like they out there roguely and they have a weapon roguely. Let's get back to the video.
By the UN Security Council to impose any penalties on Iran. There is a set of penalties that European states have been ready to reimpose, and Iran will ask Russia's help in blocking that, and in pouring scorn and trying to castigate the United States. In your previous conversation, you talked about illegalities and so forth.
Are you concerned that there might be a ripple effect if Iran withdraws from the NPT? Other countries might be looking to do the same.
Oh, yes, I'm very concerned about that. I've been concerned about that for quite a while now. if Iran pulls out of the NPT, it doesn't necessarily mean that any other country would, but Saudi Arabia has vowed to match Iran if Iran were to go for nuclear weapons. And if Iran pulls out of the NPT, that would be a signal that Iran was seeking to pursue nuclear weapons in secret. Not necessarily the case, but that was what everyone would understand it to mean. And so Saudi Arabia, I think, would think about pulling out itself. And there might be other countries. Egypt, for example, has long been concerned that Israel doesn't face any international monitoring. And Egypt says that's unfair. And so Egypt if others pulled out, might think that it would be worth their while to pull out. And, there could be other countries around the world similarly fed up with the international nuclear war.
The problem the United States and Israel have is Iran almost certainly has materials and equipment whose location we don't know about. So I've heard a lot this evening about the success of the attacks and how about the United States and Israel have destroyed facilities. But the problem that we now face is we haven't destroyed knowledge, we haven't destroyed materials, and we haven't destroyed equipment. And I don't think this attack has set Iran back nearly so far as some of the suggestions have indicated.
So, James, let me ask you more about that, because that is the suggestion that, maybe you can't take out the knowledge, maybe you can't take out, all of the equipment and facilities, but if you can set them back a number of years, that you weaken them dramatically, you could potentially reset peace talks or nuclear negotiations in the future. How much of a setback do you think a strike like this could be for Iran?
Well, there's two things that I'm very worried we haven't destroyed. The first thing is Iran's highly enriched uranium that was previously stored at Isfahan. Now, that was one of the facilities that was attacked tonight. But the Iranians have claimed, and I tend to believe them, that the highly enriched uranium had already been moved from Isfahan. This is material that is stored in things that look very much like scuba tanks. It's that small. Tracking that material is going to be exceptionally difficult. After the collapse of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the IAEA lost the ability to monitor the components that go into the centrifuges that Iran uses to enrich uranium. In my opinion, they've likely been spread around the entire country. What this means is that Iran has the ability to reconstitute its program, probably in a short number of years. And don't forget, one of the arguments
Russia has signed contracts for 2 more, and despite the hostilities, the Russian employees continue to work in Bushehr, so probably this issue will be raised tomorrow. Generally, the Russian side seems to be very disappointed with U.S. actions, and even though the Kremlin has not yet officially commented on the U.S. night strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, the Russian Foreign Ministry has strongly condemned them. Russian diplomats have said that missile and bomb strikes on the territory of a sovereign state grossly violate international law and the UN Charter, no matter what arguments they are presented with. And the consequences of this action, including radioactive one, will have to be assessed.
President Trump claimed Iran's major nuclear facilities had been totally obliterated, a statement denied by the parliamentary member for Qom, where Fordo is based. Qasem Ravanbash said damage was not as severe as reported in US media and was only above ground and could be restored.
Okay, now you see what they're saying. They're saying that the damage to the Fordo facility is not as severe as the American media and criminal Trump are describing, and the underground facility was not damaged. So, and that's coming for Qasem Ravanbashi, Iranian member of parliament. So now that's the question. Was it a success? That's why, if you notice that none of the generals from the Pentagon did not mention anything about if it was a success or not. they're still analyzing everything. And then Trump came on Truth Social and he bashed the hell out of the defense secretary. So we're gonna finish it up because I got something else that I want to show everybody.
And the US attack legitimized the use of military operations against its own forces in the region. Iran's foreign minister says Washington has crossed a very big red line.
While President Trump was elected on a platform of putting an end to America's costly involvement of
Now, people, you see that? They're throwing his words back at him because we all know that Trump is a double speaker.
forever wars in our part of the world, he has betrayed not only Iran by abusing our commitment to diplomacy, but also deceived his own voters by submitting to the wishes of a wanted war criminal who has grown accustomed to exploiting the lives and wealth of American citizens to further the Israeli regime's objectives.
All right. So what you got to say, Chosen One? From what we just got finished listening to.
I don't understand why he took the initiative to take power in his own hand when God already promised us that Israel will be okay. You know, and then you got to understand what I'm thinking when he says success. Remember, Obama went in, caught bin Laden. That was a success. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
in order for him to, he had some kind of had some kind of infatuation with trying to, at least be on the same level with Obama. I'm just thinking it got something to do with that. If you'll go ahead of the correct people like the generals and all of that and say it's a success, when
Right.
the world don't think it's a success. We think you're trying to start a war. Literally.
Well, let's look at a couple of news stories. Like we can look at a couple of newspapers. Let's go look at the New York Times. Let me share my screen. I'm going to share this because we want to make sure that we're carrying this stuff and that everybody is seeing this in live action. So that way, okay. Let's go look at the New York Times.
Did you pray about your decision, Aunt? Did you pray about your decision?
Let's see what it says. Let's scroll down. Let's see what the New York Times says. Let's look at the major newspaper. Inside Trump's decision to strike Iran, president was aided by political and military ruse. When Israel began its assault on Iran, President Trump kept his distance, but within days, he was on a path that led to an extensive bombing mission. Okay. So the question is right now, what we're trying to find out, are we in a war right now? Right? Let's go see. Let's see. Let's Google that. Let's see if the United States at war.
You ever heard of the word dumbfounding? They're dumbfounding the situation as if it's not a war, but we're actually in a war. I don't know who you gonna retaliate, who you gonna send some bombs at that don't plan to retaliate.
Exactly. He said that he wanted to make sure that this stays is peaceful, let it be a one and done, and that's it. He said if anything happened to any of the troops over there, he said just be prepared for fire and fury. Okay, why would you say that? Because the American people and the people that are a part of the MAGA movement, don't nobody have a stomach for another war.
You can't preach peace and not lead with it. How can you preach peace and not lead with it? You led with violence, now you're trying to preach peace.
Right. But
make sense,
What did the Bible say? For when they come in peace and security, just know that I'm soon to come. Ain't that's what the Bible says?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm correct on this.
Whether inevitable, we already know that we living in the last days. I don't think nobody should need to be convinced of that at this point in time. Like it's so many signs and wonders that point to we living in the last days. I don't think we gotta churn somebody to realize that hey, time is winding down.
We know. This is it.
Yeah. Oh, we do.
We are on the cusp of the tribulation. A lot of people may not want to agree with this. They say, okay, let's give it a couple days. The Bible says that it will be a short period of peace. But he said, don't get too comfortable, because during that time, there's going to be a period of complete war and chaos before the 7-year tribulation begins. So people just gotta be like a lot of American people are saying, this isn't a war. Trump claims the U.S. obliterated Iran's nuclear sites as Tehran warns of consequences.
But of that day, an hour, no man knoweth. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah, no
On
man.
that day. Oh, no man know.
No man
Oh,
knows.
no man know. Yeah.
See that? Dang, I ain't even had that pulled up. Let me make sure I got that
My
pulled
brothers and sisters, we got to make sure our election is straight, man. And sure, you know, Lester don't have to don't have to bow for Alex at the gate. Alex got to bow for himself.
That's right. We all got to stand it. We got to all attest to what we've done in our life. That's why he said he without sin cast the first stone. Nobody never threw a stone at Christ. So
hey, what did he say? I'll wait. What did he say? I'll wait. Crickets.
People are living in sin, and it just needs to stop it. It's just like, okay, we saw that video. Let's go to another video real quick. Let me pull up another one. I think that this one right here was very interesting from what I saw earlier today. And when you think about it, it's like, okay, well, how much more do we have to continue to keep stomaching this before people will start to understand that Trump is poised at what he's getting ready to do next? So let me see if I can pull this up. Let me see if I can pull up this one video. All right, let's see if we can look at some of the cameras and stuff that's over in the Israel region. Let me see if I can get this pulled up. All right, hold on 1 second. Let me get that back up. Let's look at the skyline over Iran and Tel Aviv. All right, I got some live pictures right here. This is live. These are live cameras. This is live feeds that are coming in from Tehran, Isfahan, Iran, Tel Aviv, Haifa, Isfahan area in Iran. These are nuclear sites. These are sites that are around those areas. And as you can see, there are no bombs that are not falling in those regions. You see that chosen one?
Yeah, I can see it.
So what we're gonna do is, because we're gonna have to continue to keep doing these type of reports, because a lot of people don't understand what's going on inside of this crisis. And I know a lot of people are kind of scared, and they're like, okay, so what are we gonna do? What is the United States next move? So let me take it to another video that
It seems like to me we waiting on them to make a move. We trying to figure out if what they finna do.
Exactly. It's like that's
a bad position to be in. If you ask me, we waiting on somebody to hit us so we can know how to react. You don't bomb nobody, and then you got to wait to see what they gonna do. You need to have some kind of a protocol on what's next.
Parliament has agreed to action against the United States. President Trump, why not a regime change? So Iran may launch a missile at Israel tonight. So right now they're saying that Iran's parliament approves retaliatory action against the United States. Now, think of that.
Mm-hmm.
Look at where we at.
Mm-hmm.
So now my question is to everybody is like, okay, so I got one story. I guess I'm finna. I got another video on for to show you guys real quick. Let's get this up. Let me escape out of that. Let me get that up. Because I think, I stay on it. I'm always searching. I'm constantly looking at a lot of different news stories. I get a lot of my information from Ground News. So if you got an opportunity, if you want to join Ground News, join Ground News. Ground News is going to give you stuff from right, center, and left. Anything that you feel that if it's a story that you haven't heard of, check out Ground News. All right. Let me get back to this. Now, this is a video. Let me see if I can get that on. This is a video of the operation, because now the cat is pretty much out of the bag about what took place. Was it a success? Israeli military ruins Trump's Iran attack celebration. So now we're going to listen to what the generals are saying. So let's turn our attention to that. You can see that on the screen now. I'm going to go ahead on and play. This is Credits to Occupy. It's on YouTube. Credits to Occupy Democrat.
2:10 a.m. Iran time. The lead B-2 dropped 2 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator weapons on the first of several aim points at Fordow. As the president stated last night, the remaining bombers then hit their targets as well, with a total of 14 MOPs dropped against 2 nuclear target areas. All 3 Iranian nuclear infrastructure targets were struck between 6:40 p.m. and 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, that's about 2:10 in the morning local time in Iran, with the Tomahawk missiles being the last to strike at Esfahan to ensure we retain the element of surprise throughout the operation. Following weapons release, the Midnight Hammer strike package exited Iranian airspace and the package began its return home. We are unaware of any shots fired at the package on the way out. Iran's fighters did not fly, and it appears that Iran's surface-to-air missile systems did not see us. Throughout the mission, we retained the element of surprise. In total, U.S. forces employed approximately 75 precision-guided weapons during this operation. This included, as the president stated last night, 14 30,000-pound GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, marking the first ever operational use of this weapon. I know that battle damage is of great interest. Final battle damage will take some time, but initial battle damage assessments indicate that all 3 sites sustained extremely severe damage and destruction. More than 125 U.S. aircraft participated in this mission, including B-2 stealth bombers, multiple flights of 4th and 5th generation fighters, dozens and dozens of air refueling tankers, a guided missile submarine, and a full array of intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance aircraft, as well as hundreds of maintenance and operational professionals. As the Secretary said, this was the largest B-2 operational strike in U.S. history and the second longest B-2 mission ever flown, exceeded only by those in the days following 9/11.
Now that report sounded like an unmitigated W for USA, right? Well, history tells us that journalists often have a different story to tell than military officials, and here's what the New York Times is saying today. A report that may prevent Trump and Kaine from pinning medals on each other, at least just yet. Found under their most recent live updates, the headline reads, U.S. cash strikes on Iran nuclear sites as limited attack. And it goes on to say,
Trump administration officials emphasized that the strikes were not intended to be the start of an all-out war with Iran, which vowed to defend itself. Pentagon officials said that the facilities sustained severe damage, but that it was too soon to say whether Iran retained some nuclear capability.
And here's the part that General Kaine somehow left out of his press conference.
A senior U.S. official acknowledged that the attack on Fordow, Iran's most critical site, had not destroyed the heavily fortified facility, but said that it had been severely damaged. 2 Israeli officials with knowledge of the matter also said it appeared that Iran had moved equipment, including uranium, from the site before the strikes.
And something else that General Kane left out is the answer to the question, what about radioactive fallout? The Times once again picks up the slack.
Here's what you need to know. Potential damage. The nuclear sites attacked by the United States include Iran's 2 major uranium enrichment centers, the heavily fortified mountain facility at Fordo, and a larger enrichment plant at Natanz. Satellite imagery taken shortly after the strikes at Fordo reveals damage and likely entry holes for the American bunker buster bombs. The International Atomic Energy Agency said it had not detected any increases in radiation outside the sites. International reaction. America's allies and adversaries responded with a mix of condemnations and calls for restraint, while Gulf nations expressed dismay amid fears of retaliation.
It is very likely that Donald Trump now has bone spurs in his shoulder after patting himself on the back for Operation Midnight Hammer. His general, Dan King, took to the podium to paint the operation as a flawless, engineered knockout punch to Iran's nuclear program. But journalists at the New York Times who don't have to report to Trump have a slightly different story. They are reporting that the strikes damaged but did not destroy Iran's most critical site. In fact, Iran may have seen it coming and moved the uranium before the bombs dropped. So success is arguable. And while Trump's White House calls it a limited, targeted strike, Gulf nations are sounding the alarms, and many Americans, including MAGA Americans, are panicked over Trump's aggressive move, a move he said he would not do. As this story continues to unfold, it looks less like mission accomplished and more like mission ambiguous, with Trump once again writing narratives that the Pentagon propaganda machine and the Republican Party has to support. But one thing is certain, if this turns out to be
World War III,
we can count on Donald Trump saying,
this is Biden's war.
All right. So listening to that, now let's go. I'm gonna turn everybody's attention over to this next tab. You can see that there, chosen one. Unmute your mic. Unmute your mic.
No, man. I'm shaking my head over here, Unc. I'm shaking my head.
What you got to say about the last video of what we seen? So
I'm shaking.
You're not gonna see this on the evening news. So technically, right now, this is the evening news that we giving to you that they're not going to show you on TV. So we're gonna break this stuff down. So now this next story that I got, this comes from the Times of India. Okay, this is a breakdown of what took place. Okay, targeted sites. We know it was Fordo, Nance, Isfahan, key nuclear research sites. Okay, the strike carriers. We had 2 strike carriers. We had the B-2 bomber, Spirit stealth bomber. We had the GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators. That's 35,000 pounds. We had cruise missiles, 30 Tomahawk missiles, fired from submarines 400 miles offshore. The timeline: Trump gave Iran 2 weeks. Friday night, KC-135 tankers refueling B-2 at the Whiteman Air Force Base. Early airstrikes carried out. Trump's announced success via Truth Social. Now, this is the first time in American history where we had a sitting president tweet out that a strike had just took place. I posted it on my Facebook page. And if you look at the follow me on Facebook, you can follow me at Alexander Tommy on Facebook. Back to this. Now, this is the question. Military deployment. We have the USS Carl Vinson in the Arabian Sea, and then we have the USS Nimitz, which is one of the oldest aircraft carriers in the fleet. The cost, $2.1 billion per unit. That's how much one plane costs. The range is 6+ nautical miles without fueling. That's for the ships that we have in the area. Now, my question is, if it's costing that much for that plane to go up in the sky, right? My question is, how much more? They said through the 18-hour flight into the targeted area, the aircraft main package completed a multiple fly-in and refuelings. Once over the land, B-2 is linked to escort with support craft in a complexity type maneuver. So meaning that they had the F-22s and our F-35 fighter jets that were escorting those planes into Iranian airspace.
Yeah, they had to escort them in.
At 6:40 p.m., the B-2 bombers dropped 2 GBU, the first of several airpoints that at Fordo, and then all 3 Iranian infrastructures at 6:40 p.m. and 7:05 p.m. The Tomahawk missiles were the last to strike Isfahan, as the Pentagon described them as a surprise element attack after the weapon was released at midnight. Strike package exited Iranian airspace and began returning home to the Pentagon. Said it was not aware of any shots fired at them during this time. So, folks, we are in a war. He drug us in. Now I want to go look at. I want to go pull somebody up.
People start stocking up on water. If you need to start growing plants. If you can grow plants, grow them. It's finna get real out here. It's finna get real. And you need to get close to God. Relationship over religion. Get close to God. You got to know God for yourself. You need to learn them scriptures so it'll be inside of you, just in case they take the books away or burn them up or something of that caliber. You got to have the word embedded in your heart, because you're going to need it for the times we up in the face.
Now, do you remember when Kamala Harris said that if Trump becomes president, that we'll be in a war in 6 months? She called it. So my question is, okay, we're sitting up around here and we're listening to all this stuff of what's taking place.
Shout out to the women, the women that know how to lead.
She called it.
Go ahead.
But now you got Marjorie Taylor Greene. She just turned on Trump. This 2 minutes ago. We're going to listen to this video.
Details and much more coming up next. Let's jump into the much more part first. In a post on X, she expressed fear that Trump's actions have left the United States vulnerable to terrorist attacks, and she fears for U.S. soldiers. Her post on X said, "Let us join together and pray for the safety of our U.S. troops and Americans in the Middle East. Let us pray that we are..."
I'll read that. Let us pray that we are not attacked by terrorists on our homeland after our border was open for the past 4 years. 2 million
Why would you...
got away, came in. Let us pray for peace. So they're trying to. So they're saying that sleeper cells in the country, and they're trying to already get out in front of it. So
my question is, how you gonna find all those people? Say if they already foreseen this, foreplanned this. And the whole 4 years that the border was open, they were sending their little minions in, planting them everywhere. What if America already checkmated?
That's the question.
Have you thought about that? What if we are already boxed in? The border was open for 4 years.
This is the thing. They're trying to say that during the Biden administration that the borders were open, wide open. So technically anybody could have came into the country.
All his minions could be here. We could be surrounded.
Listen, that's what you call smoke and mirrors. Smoke and mirrors, right? That's smoke and mirrors. We're not going to pay attention to that part because we know that everybody that comes into the border were all vetted. All these people were given asylum, and they have to go to asylum court in order to state their case on why they need to continue to stay inside the United States. So I'm not going to go all the way down that rabbit hole because this is what they want you to think. So we need to be mindful of this stuff because the Bible says that even in the end, the elect will be deceived.
Right.
We don't want to get deceived in thinking that, that this is happening and we know that didn't take place. So now I just want you to make sure that we're paying attention to this, and we don't need to be looking at this with feelings and animosity towards somebody. We need to start looking at this stuff with our own discernment and start looking at these things with our own spiritual eyes or our own eyes by us to be able to tell that we can be able to, if we quack like a duck and walk like a duck, what is it? It is a duck, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what we got to pay attention to. Let's not just sit back and just listen to one thing. We want to make sure that we get all information, and then we'll be able to decipher that properly. But as of right now, to me personally, this is my own personal opinion. This is a way for Trump to continue heightening his deportation program because now we're going to be on the in the midst of a war at this time. So we're getting ready to go. So since it's now the country is at war, because remember the last lawsuit that was filed a few months ago, where it stopped Trump from being able to deport people, and saying that he used the war powers, the Alien Enemies Act, by saying that we're at war. This is wartime, that he declared war on the southern border, and therefore that he can be able to use that law to be able to deport people unlawfully and kick them out of this country. Mind you, so if I'm wrong, stop me if I'm wrong, but I really feel like that this is where we're leading to, because now when he goes back for this appeal for this case to the Supreme Court, he can say we're at war with Iran. So now he hasn't mentioned that fully yet, right? So let's see if he's going to mention that when it comes time for them to go and defend that at that Solicitor General, once they make that case at the Supreme Court, to say that we are at war. So therefore, they will give him those powers. So therefore, it will catapult his domestic policy on what he's trying to do. So now, if we get civil unrest inside of the communities, we don't know if that some of these things could be false flag attacks that can be able to cause us to go and say, dang, we're at war. We got these sleeper cells that don't open up inside of the country, XYZ, up the wazoo. Okay, this happens, because it's almost like it's strategically planned at some point. I don't want to sound like a kook, but I'm just telling you. I know we've seen this happen before. Iraq. They said they had WMD. They had proof that it was WMD. Over the years, what happened? Colin Powell, he quit. Said there's no WMDs. None of those things were there. I thought they were. I was misled. This is the same exact scenario. This is going to give us every inch to be able to say that the president can use those war powers. So now, if we have civil unrest in the streets, you got people coming out, they're protesting, fighting against the war, that type of thing. If it becomes that serious, at any point, we could probably see martial law being implemented. President Obama just said a few days ago that America is on the brink of accepting autocracy. So if you don't know what the word autocracy means, let's look it up together. Let's figure it out. Now I want you to piggyback off of what I just talked about and tell me what you think. How you feel about that, Chosen One?
Well, it sounds like you're cooking up something over there. It sounds like you're cooking up something over there. So I want you to continue to elaborate on that, because it makes sense. You know, if the war will exalt all his powers, then why not?
Right. Now,
you get what I'm saying?
Right. Now, here's the definition of autocracy: a system of government by one person with absolute power. So the question is, are we moving towards that point in this society? Because we're looking at what's going on. We got wars, rumors of wars. We got people shifting and changing sides. We don't know exactly. You could just tell. You could tell the entire vibe throughout the entire country. What we've been witnessing. Liars, cheaters, backstabbers, manipulators, gaslighters. We've seen everything up the wazoo. We've seen people lose their jobs. We got people that's getting loans just to buy groceries. You got people out here losing their food stamps. They're losing their homes and stuff because they can't get Section 8. They can't get public housing and public assistance to be able to make it through. So now my question is, okay, so if we're going to be getting ready to stomach a full war, then how are we going to play for it when you're already trying to give the cajillionaires $6 trillion tax cuts? Meanwhile, kicking all these people off of these social services, but they don't want us to think about that. They want us to focus on what's going on in this war so that way they can push this bill through in the dead of night while we're not even paying attention. But don't let them, do not get so overwhelmingly locked into what's going on. We got to make sure that we're paying attention to our domestic policy, because that's our biggest issue. So now when we're looking at what that definition says about autocracy, this is what we're going into. This is
Yeah.
where the country is starting to lead its way to. Absolute power by one individual. Let's go
Well,
back.
we already know that's what he was shooting for in the first place. So
Exactly.
it makes sense. It makes sense anyway.
Dictator on day one.
Right.
So now let's finish listening in to what these guys said.
We're not attacked by terrorists on our own homeland after our border was open for the past 4 years and over 2 million gotaways came in. Let us pray for peace. And being a Trump loyalist, of course she had to blame Joe Biden for anything that might happen in the future. But Marjorie Taylor Greene shouldn't fear terrorism because Trump only hires the best, the most qualified people, right? Wrong. Have a look at this unbelievable footnote when it comes to Trump's anti-terrorism team. And on the other side, I'll share the damaging thing Greene said about Trump's illegal bombing of Iran. Just today, Senator Chris Murphy posted, as our nation girds for possible Iranian terrorist attack, this is the person Trump put in charge of terrorism prevention. 22 years old, recent work experience, landscaping, grocery clerk, never worked a day in counterterrorism. But he's a big Trump fan, so he got the job.
Now, he's 22 years old.
Oh my God.
What do you think about foreign policy?
That's all I'm gonna say, what's understood don't need to be explained.
Let's get back into the video.
To show you how much the Trump administration cares about keeping the country safe, check out who they just appointed to lead the Department of Homeland Security's one of their hubs for terrorism prevention. This guy. This is 22-year-old Thomas Fugate, who literally graduated from college last year. And according to his LinkedIn, the bulk of his leadership experience comes from his participation in a club that simulates the United Nations. I am not kidding. Nothing wrong with those clubs, but you're not ready to be in charge of a counterterrorism hub a year later. But pivotally, no threat prevention experience is listed in his employment history. So what exactly made Mr. Fugate right for the role? As ProPublica put it in a new piece, Fugate brings a different qualification prized by the White House: loyalty to the president. On Instagram, Mr. Fugate traced his political awakening to 2016, which, by the way, he was 13 years old, where he said, quote, "In a generation deprived of hope, opportunity, and happiness, I saw in one man the capacity for..."
You cannot make this up. Dude, you mean to tell me a 22-year-old something that was 13 years old when Trump was first elected has more knowledge about international affairs than anybody? But this is who is representing us.
Well, that's who America picked. So we got to accept the fact that that's who the people picked. So now you're getting what you wanted. You're getting what you wanted. This don't make no sense at all.
Change. Donald Trump. Now, just last year, Mr. Fugate spent some time down in Florida celebrating Trump's 78th birthday as part of a fan group called Club 47. People inside DHS said that Mr. Fugate was hired less to run the agency and more as a minder or a babysitter, saying, quote, "The White House installed Fugate to oversee a pivot away from traditional counterterrorism lanes and to steer resources toward MAGA-friendly sheriffs and border security projects before eventually shuttering operations."
Do you hear that foolishness?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do, sir.
So how are you gonna hire somebody to do geopolitical world affairs type of stuff, but his main focus is that he want him to focus on sheriffs, loyalty to MAGA friendly sheriffs and border security projects before eventually shuttering operations. So technically he was just put there as just a
So basically what this telling us is the person that's supposed to be for the terrorists is not even qualified. He ain't even doing his job. Oh my God.
Come on,
America, let's pray. Let's pray.
We got to.
Let's pray. Let's pray.
A 22-year-old is in charge before shuttering operations. No wonder Marjorie Taylor Greene is sounding the alarm. And speaking of that, here's her other message that was critical of Trump's move against Iran, not unlike almost every Democrat, but in her case, she was careful not to mention her Messiah by name. She said, "Every time America is on the verge of greatness, we get involved in another foreign war. There would not be bombs falling on the people of Israel if Netanyahu had not dropped bombs on the people of Iran first. Israel is a nuclear-armed nation. This is not our fight. Peace."
Now,
Here's the answer.
you know,
Peace is-
bro. Now you know if we on the side of agreeing with Marjorie Taylor Greene, beach blonde, bad built, butch body, Green.
And she said, peace is the answer.
She said peace is the answer, and this is
Well,
one
look
of
at
Trump's
God.
most loyalist, one
Look
of
at God.
most loyalist supporters.
If
This-
you're looking, if you're looking for power, that's power, because that's one of his most loyalist supporters.
Exactly, and that's the thing that people have to understand. We agree to disagree, but the thing is, if I'm gonna disagree with you, don't go out there and try to doggone ravage me or try to backdoor me. She put it
Right.
out there in public. Let's finish listening.
She kept it 100.
Is the answer. And I didn't have to go very far to find another prominent Republican who agreed. Enter Representative Thomas Massey, who had this to say this morning after posting that Trump's act was unconstitutional.
The Speaker of the House, who is from your own party, has really rejected this. He says the Article 1 power of Congress really allows for the president to do this. It was a limited, necessary, targeted strike.
No,
he
it
says.
doesn't.
Well, he's probably referring to the War Powers Act of 1973, but that's been misinterpreted. There was no imminent threat to the United States, which was what would authorize that. And I think that's peculiar to hear that from the.
Now you see, we have Thomas Massey, loyal MAGA supporter, coming out telling it. He understands what the magnitude and the gravity of the situation is right now, and he knows that he's possibly can lose his position, right? So he's out there talking up, saying, "No, this is wrong. Only Congress can declare war. Trump is not within his Article 1 powers. His powers is to protect us, the American people."
My question is, how do we rectify this situation when we got in the chair making impulse decisions without following protocol? How do we rectify this problem?
Congress is the check on Trump, but with the Republicans being in power, it's free will. So they're going to let him do whatever he wants to do because he knows he can move unchecked. They pretty much gave him absolute power. So when you do see Democrats out there fighting and standing up in the opposition party,
he's pretty much operating in a dictatorship already.
Or we can call it autocracy, but you can't see that.
Let's use autocracy.
Autocracy. Let's be politically correct because some people don't like the word dictator. That's what the media likes to use. That's what presidents are using, calling it autocracy. But we clearly see that this is a dictatorship that looks, to me, my opinion, but it looks like it.
Well, it looks like to me that he's found a way to make himself a dictator.
Right. To be an ultimate, all law ends all. He's defying orders. He's not doing what the courts tell him to do. The vice president said that does the court have an army? So we're not listening to any court orders that come from the Supreme Court, X, Y, Z. They don't want to say anything about any of that stuff. You got members of Congress that are looking in the opposite direction because they're afraid to be primary or lose their positions and stuff during the next election cycle.
Who stands up to him? Who stands up to him?
Himself.
It's praying time, America.
Now let's get into it. Let's finish listening to this, and then we'll go and then we'll move on to our last video of the evening.
Speaker of the House, look, Congress was on vacation last week when all this was happening.
You haven't been briefed on any of
We
the details.
haven't been briefed. They should have called us all back.
You hear that,
And
don't you?
frankly, we should have debated
Not
this
briefed.
War Powers resolution
He
that
ain't
Ro
briefed,
Khanna and
he
I
just
offered
acted.
instead of.
First off, anytime the president is getting ready to have a preemptive strike on another country, the B word, and doing those type of carrying out those type of operations during that time, it has to go before he has to let the Gang of Eight know what he's doing before he does it. He only told 4 members of the Gang of Eight. Those are the 4 Republican members that are on the Gang of Eight, and the 4 Democratic members were left in the blind about what was taking place. They didn't know anything. They found out from social media. Common sense would tell you, if you want to support a bipartisan support, you need to let the Gang of Eight know so that way they can pass it on to the members of Congress. And then what we'll do is we'll talk about who the Gang of Eight is and how that this type of structure always.
Well, we'll come up with a plan of action, just not jumping into something and don't know how to do.
Of staying on vacation and doing fundraisers and saying, oh, well, the president's got this under control. We're going to cede our constitutional authority. What he promised us was we would put America first. And I think there are still voices in this administration. You've still got J.D. Vance. You've still got Tulsi Gabbard. You still RFK Jr. You still got calmer heads that could prevail.
They were not persuasive in this case, clearly.
Exactly, because they said that the cabinet was absolutely divided right down the middle. They said half of the cabinet was with the president and the other half of the cabinet was not with them. So I can't wait to find out who are going to be these people that's going to be on the president's list to get fired first.
If you look at my colleagues' feeds now, they all look the same. They're all tweeting the same message that we've got to support Israel and we've got to do this. My question is, does 3 bombings and we're done with Iran's nuclear ambitions? Is that the 2 weeks to slow the spread of 2025? Is this, we were told 2 weeks to slow the spread then. Now we're told it's just going to take 3 bombings. But what happens when Israel gets bombed again? Is Trump going to sit by and say, no, we're not going to further engage in this war?
This is where I usually share my commentary, but for this story, I'll give the final word to the most prominent Republican of all to share his thoughts on a war with Iran.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. I want to see the Middle East get back to peace and real peace, but a peace that's going to be a lasting peace. We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier.
Marjorie Taylor.
Hey, man, this man lie with so much fluidity, bro. It's ridiculous, bro.
I've never seen a person that can lie with such skill.
Hey, like Mother Ann say, that man a powerful liar. You hear me? Powerful, boy. Good God about it, boy. Oh, my Lord have mercy. That man just sat there with a straight face and told America that lie.
Yes. Okay. Now we want to talk about who is the Gang of Eight, right? We want to find out who is the Gang of Eight. Let's look up Gang of Eight Congress. Let's go and see who are the Gang of Eight members. Let me get this page over here shared real quick. And then what we'll do is we'll watch one more video and then we'll wrap it up. But tomorrow, I want you guys, we're going to be coming on live, I say probably about 11:30, and we're going to give you the afternoon news. And we're going to carry Kelly McElwaney's press conference from the White House to see what the president is talking about for the war, or what's going to be the next steps, what's going to happen over the evening, going into tomorrow's presser to see exactly where President Trump is where President Trump mind is at, because you know he changed like the wind, so we need to know what's going on. Let me see if you can see that on screen, guys. Let me see if I can get that up on the screen.
Yeah, I can see it.
All right. Now, we just talked about the Gang of Eight. The Trump administration briefed top Republicans before Iranian strike, but not some Democrats. And these are some of the members here. Let's see if we can listen to this video. It may have a commercial here, so I'm gonna try and get through the commercial portion of it.
Welcome to Take 5 Oil Change.
Thanks. How long? We do not own the copyrights to that, so I'm trying to make sure that we're not watching that for the time being. And we'll go back over to the video once the ad is done. Correction, the story has been updated to make clear that Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer was called before the strike, not after the initial report. President Trump and the team were in contact with top congressional officials, Republicans, before a strike on Iran's nuclear facilities. Some Democrats, okay, let's get to it.
That key group of top intelligence leaders in Congress were not briefed ahead of these strikes while Republicans were. What is the significance of the failure to brief Democratic lawmakers?
Well, the failure to brief Democratic lawmakers, the making this just another partisan exercise by the administration when it comes to something as serious as the decision to potentially engage in warfare with another nation, it means that you're not going to have the whole country bought into this, which is a real problem. If everything goes well, then maybe it works out fine in the sense of not being an issue that tears apart the American people. But if things don't go well, if Iran retaliates, if we get in a escalating war with Iran, and you don't have the country bought in because the president didn't seek the approval of Congress, because he didn't make the case to the American people, because he didn't even inform one of the parties in Congress, that's when you have a real problem engaging in warfare on a partisan basis. So a lot of risks here for the country, which, is the reason why you come to Congress in the first place. It's the reason why our Constitution says Congress has the power to declare war, not the president.
Nah.
Welcome to Take 5 Oil Change.
Hey, I'm calling this take. I'm kind of in a rush.
Oh, just 10 minutes.
Get out, 10 minutes.
That side of it. That was coming from former Congressman, but now Senator Schiff. So now that we hear from Adam Schiff with that saying that the Gang of Eight was not notified during that time. So now if we're gonna sit back, let me see who these members are that's on the Gang of Eight right now, because I know let me make sure I got this right, because I want to make sure these are the 8 members of the Gang of Eight. U.S. House Community Intelligence members: Rick Crawford, Republican chair; Jim Hines, ranking member of the Intelligence Community of the U.S. House; the United States Senate Committee on Intelligence, Senator Tom Cotton and Senator Mark Warner; U.S. House Mike Johnson, Speaker; and then House Democratic Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Then we have U.S. Senator Majority Leader John Thune. And then we also have Chuck Schumer, the Minority Leader for the Democratic caucus inside of the 118th Congress. So those are the members that's 2, 4, 6. Those are the 8 members of the Gang of Eight. So mind you, the Gang of Eight, in the context of Congress, has historically referred to as 8 members of Congress, 4 members, the chairs and ranking members, U.S. House, U.S. Senate Select Committees on Intelligence, and 4 leaders of the U.S. House and U.S. Senate. The Intelligence Oversight Act of 1980 mandated that the CIA fully currently inform congressional oversight committees of their activities, including any significant anticipated intelligence activity. In special cases, the act authorized the president to brief only the majority of minority leaders of each chambers, as well as the chairman and ranking minority members of the Intelligence Committee. It is the group that is informally known as the Gang of Eight. So only one member from the Gang of Eight was notified during that time. So my question is, okay, so are we going to just continue to just let the president continue to feel like that he could just run shop over the U.S. Constitution and not follow, not the Constitution, but to not follow the norms of the process of what has been put in place to continue to make to make our country be a democracy and not an autocracy? So now we fast forward, we're to the big point. Where do we go from now, America?
Yes.
What are we going to do as American citizens? Number one thing that we need to be starting to do, a lot of us need to start to make sure that we get ourselves more and more informed. Watch the news. Try to pick up your newspaper if you can. Start doing some reading. Start doing your research. Start doing those things that are going to be able to help you understand the situation. But as of right now, the way that we're moving, you can see day by day of what is the ultimate plan. But the question is, will Congress do its duty and make sure that the president is within his Article 1 powers? And Congress needs to come back to the table and say, hey, we're not in total agreement on this, and that we need to make sure that if you're going to have an act or a declaration of war, don't start something and then just turn around and just say, I'll finish it and just deal with the blowback later. It doesn't work that way, because if it's Biden, you wouldn't hear the last of it. If it was Obama, you wouldn't have heard the last of it. If it was Clinton, you wouldn't heard the last of it. But now I want to close this off discussing the state of Israel. So we know that the Israelis in this conflict, we know everything that's taking place up to this point. This has been going on since October 7, 2023. Almost 2 years now. We've been dealing with the same exact thing over and over and over. First, they started bombing Lebanon. Then they went to bombing all of the groups and the little breakout proxy groups. They've been dropping the bead on Palestine for so freaking long. So now it's famine in the land. People can't get proper, their hygiene isn't where it needs to be. They don't have anywhere to stay. I saw a story where a kid was talking about how he had to eat sand in order to eat because of the food is so scarce. They're blocking trucks from entering into the country. I understand where the Muslim world feels that this is an atrocity that is being placed upon their people. I understand that two wrongs don't make a right, but we're 2 years in now. And it's like, when does this war come to an end? It's been tit for tat. They leveled the entire area of Gaza. And now we're turning around, and now Bibi is telling the president, we need to get these bunker busters to go and knock out their facilities. And the president is going on Israeli backed intelligence of this conflict. Saying that that Iran is the state sponsor, and that's the reason why they're going through so much of what they're going through. And when I look at Bibi Netanyahu, I'm not anti-Semitic, but what I am against is I'm against the slaughtering of women and children, kids, people that are being destroyed day by day, buildings, homes, people's livelihoods have been taken away because of this regime, of the Netanyahu regime. He is a homicidal maniac when it comes to diplomacy. He doesn't care anything about any of this stuff. Their number one goal is to wipe out anybody that wants to say anything bad about Israel. I'm not saying that Israel is that their people are bad and all this stuff. I'm saying that the leadership that is in position, if you want peace, I can go all the way back to Mahmoud. I think his name was Mahmoud, the former Palestinian, not Palestinian, the former prime minister of Israel. He completely said, he said the only way that it can be peace in the region is no bullets are shot. He said the only way that we can get the peace is that we need to stay at the table and we need to constantly dialogue to be able to make it so that way we're able to live side by side in the region. So
there'll never be peace without reconciliation.
There we go. Now, a lot of people don't understand the Israel-Palestinian conflict. We know that they want to go into Israel, but I got a video that I want to share that I watched today. It breaks down everything. It'll be about 10 minutes, so we'll be getting ready to wrap up and we'll give our closing thoughts. But I got this one last video I do want to share before we get off and before we get ready to wrap this up. And let me get this pulled up. And then it's going to be talking about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So it's going to give you a brief history about it. It's about a quick 10-minute video, but it goes into full detail about how all of this came about. And I want you guys to pay attention because we know that Israel is a young nation. They became a nation state in 1948. But I'm gonna let the video tell it, and then we'll talk about it on the other side. But I want you to see this video. But this video right here is informative, and if you don't know anything about geopolitical politics, learn about it. If you got any questions, you can shoot us an email at mlbf772@gmail.com, or you can reach us on MFB on Facebook, MFBF on Facebook. You can also hit us up there, and you can also follow us there. And then we're also on Instagram at MFBF on Instagram as well. And also drop a like, share, and subscribe. All right, and here's the last video of the evening. We're gonna go ahead on and get this rolling, and then we'll talk about this on the other side. We're gonna be getting ready to wrap this up in the next 15 minutes, and then we'll go close it out with some final thoughts.
Myths about the Israel-Palestine conflict is that it's been going on for centuries, all about ancient religious hatreds. In fact, while religion is involved, conflict's mostly about two groups of people who claim the same land, and it really only goes back about a century to the early 1900s. Around then, the region along the eastern Mediterranean we now call Israel-Palestine been under Ottoman rule for centuries, was religiously diverse, including mostly Muslims and Christians, also a small number of Jews who lived generally in peace.
Mind you that a lot of the people that came from Palestine were a part of the moving out of the Ottoman Empire. They were a group of people that were there, and they were transferred over into the Israel-Palestine area. I'm gonna let the video tell it.
Peace. It was changing in two important ways. First, more people in the region were developing a sense of being not just ethnic Arabs, but Palestinians, a distinct national identity. At the same time, not so far away in Europe, more Jews were joining a movement called Zionism, which said that Judaism was not just a religion, but a nationality, one that deserved a nation of its own. And after centuries of persecution, many believed a Jewish state was their only way of safety and saw their historic homeland in the Middle East as their best hope for establishing it. In the first decades of the 20th century, tens of thousands of European Jews moved there. After World War I, the Ottoman Empire collapsed, and British and French empires carved up the Middle East, the British taking control of a region it called the British Mandate for Palestine. At first, the British allowed Jewish immigration, but as more Jews arrived, settling into farming communities, tension between Jews and Arabs grew. Both sides committed acts of violence, and by the 1930s, the British began limiting Jewish immigration. In response, Jewish militias formed to fight both the local Arabs and to resist British rule.
Okay, now we see that. That's where a lot of this stuff is starting to begin. It's like, we don't want you here. This is our land. No, they were there to share that land.
Then came the Holocaust. leading many more Jews to flee Europe for British Palestine and galvanizing much of the world in support of a Jewish state. In 1947, as sectarian violence between Jews and Arabs there grew, the United Nations approved a plan to divide British Palestine into two separate states. One for Jews, Israel, and one for Arabs, Palestine. The city of Jerusalem, where Jews, Muslims, and Christians all have holy sites, was to become a special international zone. The plan was meant to give Jews a state, to establish Palestinian independence, and to end the sectarian violence that the British could no longer control. The Jews accepted the plan and they declared independence as Israel. But Arabs throughout the region saw the UN plan as just more European colonialism trying to steal their land. Many of the Arab states, who had just recently won independence themselves, declared war on Israel in an effort to establish a unified Arab Palestine where all of British Palestine had been.
The minute that it was signed, as soon as the ink hit the paper, they were already at war.
The new state of Israel won the war, but in the process, they pushed well past their borders under the UN plan, taking the western half of Jerusalem and much of the land that was to have been part of Palestine. They also expelled huge numbers of Palestinians from their homes, creating a massive refugee population whose descendants today number about 7 million. At the end of the war, Israel controlled all of the territory except for Gaza, which Egypt controlled, and the West Bank, named because it's west of the Jordan River, which Jordan controlled. This was the beginning of the decades-long Arab-Israeli conflict. During this period, many Jews in Arab-majority countries fled or were expelled, arriving in Israel. Then something happened that transformed the conflict. In 1967, Israel and the neighboring Arab states fought another war.
The Six-Day War.
When it ended, Israel had seized the Golan Heights from Syria, the West Bank from Jordan, and both Gaza and the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt. Israel was now occupying the Palestinian territories, including all of Jerusalem and its holy sites. This left Israel responsible for governing the Palestinians, a people it had fought for decades. In 1978, Israel and Egypt signed the US-brokered Camp David Accords. Shortly after that, Israel gave Sinai back to Egypt as part of the peace treaty. At the time, this was hugely controversial in the Arab world. Egyptian President Anwar Sadat was assassinated in part because of outrage against it. But it marked the beginning of the end of the wider Arab-Israeli conflict. Over the next few decades, the other Arab states gradually made peace with Israel, even if they never signed formal peace treaties. But Israel's military was still occupying the Palestinian territories of the West Bank and Gaza, and this is when the conflict became an Israeli-Palestinian struggle. The Palestinian Liberation Organization, which had formed in the 1960s to seek a Palestinian state, fought against Israel, including through acts of terrorism. Initially, the PLO claimed all of what had been British Palestine, meaning it wanted to end the state of Israel entirely. Fighting between Israel and the PLO went on for years, even including a 1982 Israeli invasion of Lebanon to kick the group out of Beirut.
The stillness of the ceasefire in southern Lebanon was shattered today by the sound of guns, bombs, and planes.
The PLO later said it would accept dividing the land between Israel and Palestine, but the conflict continued. As all of this was happening, something dramatic was changing in the Israel-occupied Palestinian territories. Israelis were moving in. These people are called settlers, and they made their
Now you see how they went into their own, to those people's land, and then they went to getting it and started annexing their property. That's what this is about.
Homes in the West Bank and Gaza, whether Palestinians wanted them or not. Some moved for religious reasons, some because they want to claim the land for Israel, some just because the housing is cheap, often subsidized by the Israeli government. Some settlements are cities with thousands of people, others are small communities deep into the West Bank.
If you've always felt a deep yearning for Jerusalem, now is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
That's just like somebody coming to your house, your property that where you own your house at, Chosen One, and telling you that they're going to build up on your property and there ain't nothing you can do about it.
Not only to stand within its gates, but also to build the home of your dreams there.
Settlers are followed by soldiers to guard them, and the growing settlements force Palestinians off of their land and divide communities. Short term, they make the occupation much more painful for Palestinians. Long term, by dividing up Palestinian land, they make it much more difficult for the Palestinians to ever have an independent state. Today, there are several 100,000 settlers in occupied territory, even though the international community considers them illegal. By the late 1980s, Palestinian frustration exploded into the Intifada, which is the Arabic word for uprising. It began with mostly protests and boycotts, but soon became violent. Israel responded with heavy force. A couple hundred Israelis, over 1,000 Palestinians died.
Look what they're using rocks.
Around the same time, a group of Palestinians in Gaza, considered the PLO too secular, too compromise-minded, created Hamas, a violent extremist group dedicated to Israel's destruction. By the early 1990s, it's clear that Israelis and Palestinians have to make peace. The leaders from both sides signed the Oslo Accords. This is meant to be the big first step toward Israel maybe someday withdrawing from the Palestinian
Tomorrow
territories
what we'll do is
and allowing an
at
independent
12, I'm going to show you a video that President Clinton, where he talked about.
The Oslo Accords established a Palestinian Authority, allowing Palestinians a little bit of freedom to govern themselves in certain areas. Hardliners on both sides opposed the Oslo Accords. Members of Hamas launched suicide bombings to try to sabotage the process. The Israeli right protests peace talks with ralliers calling Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin a traitor and a Nazi.
That's his name, Yitzhak Rabin. He was the one that was big on peace. Him and Yasser Arafat, and they were working really hard at making sure they kept peace. Until lo and behold came along with Bibi Netanyahu.
Not long after Rabin signs the second round of Oslo Accords, a far-right Israeli shoots him to death in Tel Aviv. But this violence showed how extremists on both sides can use violence to derail peace, keep a permanent conflict going as they seek the other side's total destruction. That's a dynamic that's been around ever since. Negotiations meant to hammer out the final details on peace drag on for years, and a big Camp David summit in 2000 comes up empty. Palestinians come to believe peace isn't coming, rise up in a second intifada, this one much more violent than the first. By the time it wound down a few years later, about 1,000 Israelis and 3,200 Palestinians had died. The second intifada really changes the conflict. Israelis become much more skeptical that Palestinians will ever accept peace or that it's even worth trying. Israeli politics shift right, the country builds walls and checkpoints to control Palestinians' movements. They're not really trying to solve the conflict anymore, just manage it. The Palestinians are left feeling like negotiating didn't work, and violence didn't work, and that they're stuck under an ever-growing occupation with no future as a people. That year, Israel withdraws from Gaza. Hamas gains power, but splits from the Palestinian Authority in a short civil war, dividing Gaza from the West Bank. Israel puts Gaza under a suffocating blockade, and unemployment rises to 40%. This is the state of the conflict as we know it today. It's relatively new, and it's unbearable for Palestinians. In the West Bank, more and more settlements are smothering Palestinians, often respond with protests and sometimes with violence, though most just want normal lives. In Gaza, Hamas and other violent groups have periodic wars with Israel. The fighting overwhelmingly kills Palestinians, including lots of civilians. In Israel itself, most people have become apathetic. For the most part, the occupation keeps the conflict relatively removed from their daily lives, with moments of brief but horrible violence. There's little political will for peace. No one really knows where the conflict goes from here. Maybe a third intifada, maybe the Palestinian Authority collapses. But everyone agrees that things as they are now can't last much longer. Israel's occupation of the Palestinians is too unstable to last, and that unless something dramatic changes, whatever comes next will be much worse.
All right, and there you have it. There you have it. Now, getting a brief history lesson on that, what I want to do tomorrow is I want to go into the biblical aspect and look at not ways, but what's going to happen next. Because if we know anything about what the book of Revelation speaks of during this time, that we understand that it looked like we came to a point like a few weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, when Trump was visiting the region. He was meeting with the Saudis, and he met with the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, he met with all these different countries and stuff in the region, and they were all like, dang, Trump really wants peace. He was talking about having peace with Iran and making it work. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, here we are. We on the brink of, I hate to say it, World War III, because that's definitely what it feels like at this point. But in closing, I just want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I know it was a lot of stuff that we came out with. I want to thank you for your comments. NAMV back 230. Want to thank you for tuning in on Twitch. Also with our other fans and stuff that have joining us live on YouTube, Instagram, on FanSlide, all those different social media sites. I want to thank you guys for tuning in this evening. And in closing, we're actually also on Substack as MFBF on Substack. So if you want to, you can also join us there if you have any questions. Soon we should be able to go live on Substack, in which I'm looking forward to doing that tomorrow. So hopefully we'll be getting ready to go live and be getting ready to do our first live on Substack, so that we'll have more viewers that'll be tuning in. That's just like you guys that want to know what's going on in the world and wants to get the information from an urban perspective, or however you want to look at it. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight. So in closing, you want to go first? Because I could close it out because I got something that I wrote that I want to speak about the times and stuff we're in. So if you want to, I would like you to close it out real quick. Go ahead.
I just want to encourage the people that when life gets heavy and the answers seem far away, don't give up. Get on your knees and pray. I'm out.
All right. Okay, so now in closing, I would like to say to everybody, I want to thank you guys for tuning in on this evening. I had a few things that I have prepared that I want you guys just to understand that we know that we live in privileged times and stuff inside of our communities as we go through our day-to-day life, living and understanding that we understand that this foreign policy does not do anything for our domestic policies, such as bringing down the cost of goods, lowering the housing prices, our rent, giving people an opportunity to be able to live for the American dream. We also understand that there are issues that plague our country. We have a lot of backstabbing and backbiting that's going on in our world up to this point. It's not just inside of the halls of Congress, but they are also inside of the halls of our churches, our schools, our institutions of higher learning. And we're also seeing these things take place on a day-to-day basis. I would like to tell everyone to make sure that you remain and still continue to be encouraged, as that these days, we know it can become very stressful, but just understand that we are living for the Most High. And we will be praying to the Most High, asking Him to continue to give guidance to our leadership in our country. Although I know that I don't agree with President Trump on a lot of issues, but I often do find myself praying for our leaders and asking God to touch their hearts and not harden it, so that when things get tough, He understands that He's not just out speaking only for MAGA. He's speaking for over 90 million Americans. Over 200 million Americans each day. So I would like to say that I don't feel that the United States should be involved inside of a war that was completely started by a nation, the smallest nation in the Middle East, by Israel. Understand what happened on October 7, 2023 was a major event that took place in that country. I understand that the issues and stuff that was surrounding that situation during that time. I understand that those were a lot of people that died during those times. But what we have to make sure that we continue to stay steadfast and understand that to what end? BB, it's up to you to be able to end this war. It's up to you to get to the table of decisions and to make decisions and stuff for the Israeli people and also for your entire country to protect Americans home and abroad. We understand that it's hard at this time for you all to get to the table of decisions, but Yitzhak Rabin clearly said that we need to make sure that not one bullet is fired in order for us to be able to have diplomacy and peace in the region. And only peace can be achieved if we speak. So in closing, I want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Those are my final thoughts. Me and Rev, we're going to get ready to go ahead on and sign off. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. This was a good night. We had a good show, and we want to look forward to picking back up onto this more and more each day as we get closer and closer into this domestic policy. So tomorrow we're going to have a lot of breaking news and stuff that'll be coming out. We don't know what's going to be happening overnight. I'll be constantly monitoring it. If it's something that goes big, just get ready for it. I may come in late night and just go ahead and go live for a bonus show. So in closing, Rev, you want to go ahead on and close us out and just go ahead on and say thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on tomorrow afternoon. We're looking to have a noonday show. So tune in 11:30 a.m. tomorrow morning, so that way we can go ahead and listen to all the Monday morning quarterbacking that will take place. And we'll be also having quite a few stories and stuff leading up to that. I know we always say that we are going to do that, but we are going to do it this time. We will stay consistent. And I want to thank you guys, fans, friends, fans, and haters, because without you, none of this would be possible. Thank you again. Real? Unmute your mic. Unmute your mic.
Now I lay us down to sleep. I pray the Lord our soul to keep. If we should die before our wake, I pray the Lord our soul to take. I want everybody on the sound of our voice to tune in tomorrow, and we want to thank you for tuning in and interjecting those that took the time out to comment, reply, like, subscribe. Whatever you did, we thank you, and we love you, and ain't a thing you can do about it.
Yes, sir. And thank y'all guys. What's going to come next? So let's just stay tuned. Let's stay prayerful, and let's stay vigilant. Thank you. Two fingers. And just let me end it like this. I want to use the words of my big cut. I want to use this. Love is kind. No matter what you do, what you say, I will always LOVE you, because now you can make the
change. All right, cuz, shout out to you, cuz. I know you heard that.
You make the change. And nobody knows the soul that your soul totes. Two fingers. Peace.
All of us are, they not like us. They not like us. They not like us. They not like us. Once upon a time, they not like us. They not. Get up the sweet music, and I won't pass the